If you've ever written a really killer percussion line by just mashing some keys on the keyboard randomly and then pressing quantize, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hi, I'm Ryan Thomas with 8Dio, and this video is the product walkthrough for the 8Dio Soulful Studio Trombone, which is a deep sampled solo trombone library with over 50 different articulations, including just some ultra-realistic legato that is truly out of this world. And this instrument is part of the Soulful Studio Brass series, so it just integrates really beautifully with all the instruments in that series. And the library is just so versatile. You've got all the different articulations. You've got two very different mic positions that really just let the instrument shine in pretty much any context. So what we're going to do is just very briefly review the interface and the articulation categories, and then we're just going to dive into all the articulations. I'm going to audition each one at least once, so you'll hear every articulation in this video. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with an empty instance of Kontakt here so that I can show you the two main kinds of patches that you can load with the library. Of course, you do have the individual patches in this folder if you don't want to deal with any key switches or anything like that. But this patch here is going to give you a totally empty articulation set so that you can populate them however you want to. And I'll go ahead and just show you the articulation categories while we're in this patch. So you've got traditional, which is going to be the articulations that you'll probably use the most. The muted, which includes just a variety of mutes. And then the performance patches here are going to be your arcs, your ostinatos, and a couple other patterns. And then effects are basically going to be your pre-recorded phrases or, effects like bends and scoops and that kind of thing. Now, the prearranged patch here is going to give you an articulation set that's populated by sort of a hand-picked assortment of articulations. And that's just a really quick, dirty way to get started. And I'm going to show you what you can do with just the preloaded articulation set in a musical example a little bit later on in the video. So other than that, the interface is pretty intuitively laid out. Over here, you've got the just the basic instrument sound controls. You've got your mic position knob here, panning, and volume. So that's pretty much it. Let's go ahead and check out some of these articulations and hear what the library can do. And we are going to start off in the traditional articulations here and just kind of go right down the line. So this is staccato. So you've got a nice attack and just sort of a medium short release. Staccatissimo is going to give you a nice attack and a very short release. This is Staccatissimo 2. And I'm super stoked that they included Staccatissimo 2 in this library. So I'm actually a sax player myself. I've played in many brass lines in my life. And there are two different ways that you can cut off a note when you are dealing with any wind instrument, brass, woodwind, whatever. You can either cut it off with the air supply, or you can cut it off with your tongue. Now, when you cut off a short note with your air supply, you're going to get a ta, ta, ta. Whereas when you cut it off with your tongue, you're going to get a tot, tot, tot. And that's the difference between Staccatissimo in this library and Staccatissimo 2. Staccatissimo is the player cutting off the note with the air supply. Staccatissimo 2 is the player actually cutting off the note with their tongue. And I think that's a really, really important articulation to have in any library. It doesn't matter if it's orchestral or jazz or anything in between. So I think that's really cool. So let's go ahead and move on. This is going to be marcato. So you get a nice attack and a very long release. Marcato sforzando. Gives you that really nice attack and then a decrescendo into a crescendo. And then the sustains. and the sustains vibrato. And finally, the legato. And we're going to spend a little bit more time on this one because there are a few things that you need to know about it. The first of which being that there is some vibrato, and I'll let you hear that. I like it because it's not over the top, and it's also not so subtle that you just don't notice it. It evolves really naturally, I think. And also, the legato transition is affected by your note velocities. So at the lower velocities, you're going to get a much longer legato transition, and at the higher velocities, you'll of course get a shorter legato transition. So you can see my velocity values up here right next to the cursor, so just be watching that. I'm going to start off with the slow velocities first. And then these are the faster velocities. So it's a really nimble patch, really just beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and just give you a demonstration real quick of what the legato can do. So again, it has no problems playing faster lines, and you just get those really nice, lush, emotional portamento transitions when you want them. So let's go ahead and move on to the next articulation category and explore some of those. And we're going to start off here with the staccato with the straight mute. I love that sound. It's just got a really nice bite to it. And this is the marcato with a straight mute. And these are the sustains with a straight mute. These are the staccato with the harmon mute. And this is the marcato with the harmon mute. I love that, just a little bit of vibrato there. And these are the sustains with the harmon. And these are going to be the wahs, and I just think these are a ton of fun. And these are the wah longs. And the wah sustains. I just love those. They are a ton of fun. I'm really glad that they made it into the library because they really, really are necessary when you're going for that like old school, 20s, 30s, 40s sound with the trombone. Let's move on to the next articulation category. And again, this category is going to include the arcs as well as some other common performance techniques. So these are going to be the short arcs, and just so you know, those are velocity sensitive, which is really cool. It just gives you a lot more flexibility. These are going to be the medium arcs. I just love the way the vibrato develops on those. And then these are the long arcs. And just keep in mind that these arcs represent a single note that has been played from start to finish with no crossfading of any dynamics layers, so you really just get the true emotion of the player and the realism of, again, hearing that note just very organically evolve from start to finish. So again, I just think these are really, really special articulations. Okay, let's check out the tuplets here. Nice and punchy. And the triplets. And the da-das. And the da-da-das. And the measured trem, which is in ostinato, and this is going to be tempo synced. Now these are the slow runs, and this is really cool because the run is either going to be ascending depending on the orientation of the pitch wheel, or it's going to be descending. So obviously when the pitch wheel is down, it descends. When it's either in the middle or up, it ascends. And then the fast runs. So again, I just really love that built-in functionality there. It makes switching between the two different kinds of runs just really easy and intuitive. And finally, we have the 1-octave runs, which I just wasn't able to fit in the previous instance. So let's give these a listen, and we're going to start off with the slow runs. And these are the fast 1-octave runs. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the effects. So this first one here is going to be the flutter tongues. Really nice and gritty. And the slow scoops. That could be really useful in like a comedy score. And the medium scoops. I like that nice little hint of vibrato there. and the fast scoops. And this is the slow doit. And the fast doit. This is the slow fall. The fast fall. And the disco drop. And the rips. And then we just have a couple other effects that, again, I wasn't able to fit in the other instance. So the first one here is going to be the shakes. And finally, the long shakes. Okay, so now you've heard every articulation at least once. Now I would just like to show you a couple ways that you can mix and match articulations in some real-world writing scenarios. And we're going to start off with this one here. And we are using just the patch with all the preloaded articulations, some of the more common articulations that you're going to be using. And we have just kind of this jazzy improv solo. And you can see over here which articulation is being triggered. So let's give it a listen. So you get a nice combination of some effects, short notes, long notes. Okay, now let's check out this example here, which is kind of a comedy-esque little excerpt. And then finally, I want to show you this example over here, which is something that you might write for a modern brass line or something like that. Yeah, so just one of the really special things about the library is that you've got articulations that can be really punchy and can work really well even in a pop type setting. And then you've got these really intimate, delicate articulations like the arcs, the legato. And I just think that that is kind of unusual to have in one library. The last thing I'd like to show you is just how the mic position knob affects the sound. So we're just going to play this legato melody from earlier, and I'm going to change the mic position in real time so that you can hear how it's affecting the sound. So the effect is fairly drastic, but you still have the same character, you've still got the same quality there. But I think that the room mic could work really well to place it in an orchestral context. The close mic, of course, could work really well to place it in a more, intimate, pop or jazz context. And of course, the mix gives you a nice sort of in-between option. So that is actually going to do it for this walkthrough. I hope I was able to give you a pretty good idea of what the library is all about. I hope it was informative, and I want to thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.